To some, Fallout 4's voiced protagonist will always remain a controversial game design decision. Leaving behind a more traditional role-playing game experience, Todd Howard and co. decided to explore a more story-centric narrative. Was that the right call? You are watching the Yetti Den. Welcome. We love discussing RPGs, tactics, and strategy games. If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. I've been replaying each of the Fallout games in 2023, and I'm currently about 24 hours into my second playthrough of Fallout 4. Revisiting the Wasteland through the lens of Fallout 4 is both familiar and strange. There are moments of the story that feel familiar because I have beaten the main story campaign before, but that was a lot closer to when the game launched, which I believe was around 2015. I played it on my PS4, and despite having beaten this game already, it still feels really strange because now I'm experiencing Fallout 4 as a true Fallout series fan. Initially, this was my favorite Fallout 4 game, and it is certainly the most accessible to newcomers, but this fourth installment certainly strays pretty far from its predecessors.
We've worked on Fallout for over 10 years now, and we started designing this one actually right after Fallout 3 in 2009. We were busy with the Skyrim game, but for the last 4 years, we have been working very, very hard.
Todd Howard puts it best. Quote, "You can look at this game and see it as a sequel to Fallout 3, but for us, it's our next game after Skyrim. So the feedback we're getting from Skyrim is helping inform Fallout 4 in terms of what worked and what didn't work." End quote. That was taken from an interview of Todd Howard speaking to Rob Crossley of GameSpot. I've really come to enjoy Bethesda's silent protagonists. While classic Elder Scrolls titles like Morrowind, Oblivion, Skyrim, and the Fallout titles, Fallout 3 and New Vegas, the player is unvoiced. It's a voiceless protagonist, and ultimately that means that there are dialogue options for your character, but you never hear the voice of your chosen character in the game. So I really have come to prefer this approach for a create a character RPG, because I'm able to create my own story with a unique voice for how they sound in my head, and I feel like I get a closer connection to my gameplay experience. So when Fallout 4 made the switch up by introducing a voice protagonist, it really affected my perception of how a role-playing game should present its world and its characters.
On a beautiful Saturday morning, with the threat of nuclear war looming.
You're gonna knock him dead at the Veterans Hall tonight, hon.
You think?
Absolutely. Now get ready and stop hogging the mirror.
Bethesda Game Studios is in a really unique position as a game studio. They produce mainline entries into two separate massive franchises, The Elder Scrolls and Fallout. So when ZeniMax purchased the Fallout IP in 2004, many Bethesda fans naturally ventured into the Wasteland to experience Todd Howard's vision of the beloved post-apocalyptic RPG series. After all, it's no secret that Fallout 3 was being unofficially referred to as Oblivion with guns. So in continuing with those expectations, I guess Fallout 4 was to become Skyrim, but maybe with even more features. Thankfully, Rob Crossley encourages Todd to expand, and Todd, in order to build on the context of Skyrim's release and how that affects Fallout 4, Todd says, quote, "Well, things like the flow of the open world, the pluses, the minuses of that, how do you tell a story? How do you add all these other things to make it open? Given that it's open world, what kind of stories could you tell best? That's the thought space on it. So we look into things like how you start the game and decided that you start in the past and you see it all destroyed and you have that sense of personal loss. So just when you step into that new world, you have already seen it differently," end quote. In a conversation with The Guardian, Todd Howard expands on his approach to Fallout 4's lineage in the Bethesda canon. Quote, "We tend to look at them all. We didn't start at Fallout 3 and think about how to add to that. We take a step back and think, okay, if we look at the Fallout games, what would a new one look like? So the focus is not Fallout 3 plus this, then we start really digging into the world. What does it feel like? What are we going to put in it? What are we not going to include?" End quote. I think Todd Howard reveals a lot about his team's thought process behind Fallout 4's creative deviations from its predecessors. For instance, when Todd asks the question, how do you tell a story? It reminds me a bit of Fallout 3. Fallout 3 opens with a traumatic family event that also explores personal loss. This makes me wonder if the dev team wanted to find a way to build on top of that narrative opening, as well as character background, but flip it a bit. Both Fallout 3 and Fallout 4 have similar openings, but 4 really takes the emotional stakes up a notch. The last line in the paragraph quoting Todd Howard stands out as well. Quote, "So just when you step into that new world, you have already seen it differently." End quote.
Good morning, sir. Your coffee. 173.5 degrees Fahrenheit. Brewed to perfection.
Thanks, Kazuya.
Of course, sir.
Nuka-Cola, ice cold. Sugar bombs, 100% daily value of sugar.
Good morning. Vault-Tec calling.
Vault-Tec? Remind me again?
Why, we're about you, sir, and helping secure your future. You see, Vault-Tec is the foremost builder of state-of-the-art underground fallout shelters. Vaults, if you will.
But there's room for my entire family, right?
Of course, of course.
This is the core element of Fallout 4 that separates it from previous Bethesda Fallout titles. The opening act emphasizes the player's experience of the world before the nuclear strikes. Tying in a personal story of loss almost represents the loss that humankind endures as its world is changed forever. Todd's desire for the player to be, quote, in sync with the character, end quote. Traditionally, Bethesda games encourages multiple playthroughs. Each playthrough feels drastically different than the previous one due to its sandbox approach to player development. If I'm being honest, I've played Skyrim countless times, and if I had to take a test on the main story beats of that game, I'd maybe say, I know there's dragons, and there's a dragon voice, and you are the chosen one. I'd be even further at a loss if you asked me to explain Morrowind to you. So Todd's goal for Fallout 4's storyline is to define it a bit more and create a more predictable emotional arc and connection for the player. Depending on who you ask, this could be classified as a deviation in approach. But for fans for more linear story beats, this might be considered an evolution. The Bethesda developers clearly intended to create an emotional, personal experience for the player to bond with the characters while also telling a great story. I think a lot of players' unique experiences were sacrificed for a more universal character backdrop. All of us are now parents the moment we enter Fallout 4.
That's worth a little paperwork, right?
Mr. Howard, Sean has been changed, but he absolutely refuses to calm down.
You heard Codsworth say my name. That isn't for the demo. We actually have recorded around 1,000 of the most popular names for him to say.
How are the two most important men in my life doing? Spin the mobile a bit. He loves that.
Sir, Mom, you should come and see this.
Confirmed reports of nuclear detonations in New York and Pennsylvania. My God.
We need to get to the vault. Now!
I've got Sean. Let's go.
Almost there. I love you. Both of you.
We love you too.
Hold on!
Howard tells Keith Stewart of The Guardian, quote, "We all have bad things that happen in our lives, and a lot of us wonder, how can we go back to before the event, whatever it is? Fallout 4 is about realizing that your life has a new normal. We want to put you in the shoes of someone who knows what life was like before this." Todd continues, "For the other people in the world, this is all they know. It's normal to them. But the player character is coming with a sense of the world beforehand. That kind of emotion plays heavily in our story. Anytime we can connect connect the character on screen with the player anytime you both feel the same way. That's great, end quote. GTA 5's influence on Todd Howard seems to be an important piece of background information, as Todd explains, quote, "In our games, we want to give you complete freedom. So I think of the last few years, I think Grand Theft Auto 5 had succeeded the most at the same type of thing we try to do. I look at that game and think, wow, I just don't know how they did this. That's what we try to create, that sense of going anywhere and doing anything. GTA 5 does it so well. It puts you in its world and it makes you its director. It says yes to the player a lot, and that's what we try to do. It's just a phenomenal game," end quote. So in a way, Fallout 4 is less Skyrim with guns, but more Bethesda's take on a Grand Theft Auto styled game.
Ready to fuck some shit up?
Jared Soares for Wired gives context from 2015. Quote, "On November 10th, Howard's latest project arrived like a thunderclap. Fallout 4 is the biggest game his team has ever made, a Skyrim-sized post-nuclear world brimming with more than 100,000 lines of spoken dialogue, coupled to a mammoth crafting system fed by all those Wasteland odds and ends players can pluck from dilapidated desks and derelict trash cans," end quote.
So back to the big one. We love building stuff in our games. Fallout is kind of the perfect world to do all of that in. So like many things, we have gone completely overboard, and here's how it works in the game. We're allowing your character, while playing, to rebuild. Like the rest of the game, this is about making it your own experience and make yourself really a place you want to live in.
Lead designer Emil Pagalarilo explained some of the motivations behind the voiced protagonist of Fallout 4, stating, quote, "If you play Fallout 3, you know Liam Neeson is the voice of your dad, and there's some good emotional beats there, but there's only so much you can do when you're clicking on a line of dialogue and there's no spoken response. So the emotional depth that we got by having a voiced protagonist has actually made the story way more tense than I ever expected," end quote. Hindsight is 2020. Looking back on Fallout 4's success and pitfalls, Todd Howard has stated that, quote, "I think the shooting in Fallout 4 is really good. I think it plays really well. Obviously, the way we did some dialogue stuff, that didn't work as well, but it was, I think, I know the reason we tried that, to make a nice interactive conversation, but less successful than other things in the game. For us, we take that feedback, I think, long term," end quote. So knowing that Todd Howard feels ultimately the dialogue system was not successful, what does that mean for future Bethesda games? Well, on June 13th, 2022, Bethesda Game Studios announced that, quote, "Yes, dialogue in Starfield is first person and your character does not have a voice," end quote. I think so much of the charm of Bethesda is in their combination of conversation and combat. And even though I'm enjoying my Fallout 4 playthrough, I do feel like some of the wonder, the discovery, the mystery is lacking when compared to New Vegas and Fallout 3. When I entered the Fallout universe, I felt so grateful for Fallout 4 because I just needed that extra accessibility to understand the joy and thrill of the Wasteland. But now that I've invested so much time into this universe, I really do feel myself drawn to more of a complex dialogue system, undoubtedly as I complete Far Harbor and the other Fallout 4 DLCs, and in fact, Obsidian's Fallout competitor Outer Worlds. I feel as though I will have a lot more to say on this topic. For now, though, this has been the Yetti Den. I thank you for watching. I'm excited to hear your thoughts on silent versus voiced characters. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more Fallout content, please hit like. And if you want to keep up with even more videos from the Yetti Den, please subscribe. I will see you guys later.